morning.
Hey, Claire.
Welcome to our Sizigi Talk Live. We're so excited to have you. We're going to wait just a couple minutes and make sure everyone who wants to join us can log in and sign up to come watch today. All right. How are you doing?
Doing pretty well. Yeah, it's been a good morning so far. How about for yourself?
Yeah, it's been nice. It's cooling down. Definitely feels like fall's coming, which is funny for San Diego since we don't really have seasons, but something like that.
Something close.
Yeah, something close to it.
So I understand.
Yeah. Okay. Let me just see here. All right. Cool. You got a big week planned?
Kind of. We'll be spending some time with another couple friend of ours. It'll be good. Yeah, that's about it.
Nice. Wonderful. Okay. Well, Kyle, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Why don't you give us a quick introduction and just kind of tell us who you are?
Sure. So, again, my name is Kyle Kim-Greenberg. I'm the Director of Professional Development at Loyola Marymount University, which is just a fancy way of saying that I run learning and development programs, and I'm a career coach that works at LMU. I've been working in the field now for going on 9 years. It's been a lot of fun. It's changed a lot in the last 10 years. It's changed a lot in the last 6 months as well. Like I mentioned a second ago to Claire, I'm from Chicago, but I've been living in Los Angeles now for almost 16 years, half my life. I really love what I do. I love working with college students. I'm the son of a faculty member, so I grew up on college campuses, and I spent my time around university and around the people and adults in that stage of their life and their career. And I really enjoy working with people that are anywhere from 18 up into grad students and MBA students who are sometimes in their 50s. But it's a fascinating, fun time, and it's good stuff. Yeah.
It's amazing. We're so excited to have you. I've heard Kyle speak now multiple times, and every time I hear him speak, I leave so motivated and excited to chase after my career goals. So I'm hoping our audience is left with those same sentiments today. So let's get started. Let's get into our questions. My first question for you, Kyle, is what was your earliest job experience like, and how have you used it to help you throughout the rest of your career?
Sure. So I'll take that on two different earlies. So the earliest, I mean, small time, part-time things as a kid, but really my first official full-time job was at Outback Steakhouse as a host. I think I was 15. I wanted to get out of high school early, so I wanted to take summer school. My deal with my parents was they would help me pay for summer school if I helped pay as well, and I had to get a job. So I was 15, and I worked at Outback Steakhouse. I worked in restaurants for the next 4 years. Eventually went to Olive Garden, spent several years hosting and serving and training new servers and other things like that at Olive Garden. And I could talk more about that, but that's less interesting. I think the more interesting is after I finished my master's degree. So I have a master's degree in coaching and counseling, working with college students in college student administration. So when I finished that in 2012, I actually couldn't find work in the field. I was young. I went, like I mentioned, I graduated high school early. I went straight to college. Finished college, went straight to my master's program, finished my master's program in 2 years. So I was like 23, 24 coming out of my master's program. And I wanted jobs as a resident director. I wanted jobs as a career coach. I wanted jobs that were pretty serious jobs. And I just wasn't really being able to find an actual opportunity. I was young. I was in Los Angeles where it's pretty competitive, UCLA, USC. I had a pretty narrow view of what schools I wanted to work at. So I only really had like 5 places that I could even be applying to. So what I actually ended up doing is I leaned on my undergrad degree, which was organizational communication and a little bit of PR. And I actually went and started working in a contract role with the city of Los Angeles. So I worked for a very small company, and I was basically an outside consultant. I'd be contracted in billable hours. So city agencies would pay my company to use my work. And I was basically a community outreach coordinator, which is a fancy way of saying, if any of you know Parks and Rec, I was Leslie Knope. So, people never threw a Frisbee at me in the middle of a town hall meeting, but it got close to that. I literally, there was a time with the 710 freeway going through South Pasadena, we were at a town hall that our company and myself put on. And, people literally, I think like 80 people stood up on their chairs and started shouting and throwing things, adults, because they just really didn't want this freeway to be going either through or underneath their town in South Pasadena. So this job was really interesting because it was really about talking with people more than anything else. It was project management, it was coordinating, it was writing. was database management. I mean, I literally had an Excel spreadsheet with 130 contacts in it, or excuse me, 130,000 contacts in it.
Oh my goodness.
I know, too much. But more than anything else, what it really was talking to angry or concerned stakeholders, people that were going to be impacted by construction projects, people whose small business was outside that road that was going to be shut down. One person lived in Pacific Palisades above, like on Temescal Canyon Drive, and she had a private yoga studio in her house. Wow. And, 100 feet below her house was a mile of road that had 93 3-foot metal plates. And if a big old construction truck drives over that, that's 93 times that you get to hear that noise of the construction, and it reverberates up. So, I literally, if you've ever seen a construction project and there's that sign of like, in 6 months or a year, this is what this place is going to look like. Any questions, call this number. I was that number. So my job every day was responding to sometimes as many as 40 calls on my little silly clip-on flip phone from the city, and responding and answering questions to very angry people. And so, your question here, Claire, was, what did I take from this? My job now, I've been in this role, like I said, almost 10 years, and I've worked one-on-one with over 5,000 clients, one-on-one. So I've heard so many different stories. I've had people break down sobbing in my coaching appointments. I've had people excited. I've seen the highs. I've seen the lows. Seen everything. But my job with this thing with City Hall, it's not what I wanted. I was breaking down when I had to do this because it was not what I wanted. I just finished a master's degree. I had to do this other thing, and I thought I failed. But the reality was that it wasn't a failure. It was just different. I had to pivot. And, all of us in COVID, we all have these plans. I've worked with so many people that graduated in May 2020 or June 2020 in the middle of all this. And they all came to me and they said, Kyle, I failed. I didn't get my career path. I've been working on it for 4 years. I didn't get that job and whatever. And it's not that you failed. Circumstances are just really dang hard. And so what I learned is, I had to do something I didn't want to do, but I made the most of it. I learned, I made contacts. I worked with government officials, elected officials, sheriff's deputies. I was working on a project with a $32 billion budget. I mean, that wasn't my budget, but I was part of the team working on the project. And, honestly, part of why I have the jobs I have now is because on my resume, I was able to say, partnered with elected officials, did these things, created a project, an outreach project to work with homeless populations to help get them relocated and do these other. And so when people saw and read the depth and scope of that experience, they're like, okay, this guy can handle what we're at. We're thinking about hiring him. For now, he's seen worse. He's done bigger. Right.
Yeah, that's so crazy. I feel like you've had so much experience in such a short time. Like, what a great learning lesson to have. Speaking of lessons, what would you say is the longest lesson that it took you to learn within your career, within learning to manage the job world? What was the longest thing you had to do?
It's a lesson I think everybody's still learning. I'm still learning. I think all my clients, my students are still learning, pretty much 99% of everyone I've worked with. Like I mentioned, I'm a faculty member. I grew up with a father who was a water geologist, hydrogeologist. So his life is basically, how do we go around the world and help communities that don't have access to clean water get access to clean water cheaply? So building infrastructure cheaply by using natural geology and other things like that. So he's very altruistic, very mission-oriented, very caring, very loving. My family was very Protestant when I was growing up, so I had a lot of those Protestant values instilled in me as well. Frankly, what I was told growing up, especially, I finished my undergrad in 2010, right at the end of the crash, a very impacted market. What I was told is, Kyle, you can have a job that pays well. You can have a job that you love. You can have a job that helps people. You can have a job that's fun, but you can't have all those things. So choose one, and you better choose the one where you're helping people. And so for me, part of what I mentioned a minute ago is I was not successful, if you want to call it that, when I was first looking for that first job after grad school. And a big part of that is because I was just doing what I thought I was supposed to do, not what I really actually wanted to be doing. So I was, out of all the 5, 10, 20, 30 different values, needs, wants, things that were really, fundamental to who and what I am, I thought I had to prioritize one or two and not realize that I could actually target all of them. So, a career lesson that I'm learning, and that I think all of you, whoever's watching this right now, if you're a high school student, a college student, an experienced professional, is really thinking about what do you actually want and what do you actually need. As Claire and I keep talking over the next 10, 15 minutes, this will come up in a couple more times too. But if you can actually align what you're supposed to be doing with what you want to be doing, it doesn't feel like nasty work. You don't have to force yourself to put down what you want to be doing. All right, dang it, I stopped that. I got to go spend an hour working on this stuff, because we don't do that. We don't do that in the best of times. And especially now with how much emotional stress and trauma and grief and anger and isolation is happening now, we are overwhelmed and inundated with a long list of things we should be doing, those shoulds. We don't do them. There's so many that we don't even have time to get to. So I think when students learn that, okay, I ask my students, how old are you? You're 20? Okay, so in 20 years, you're in my office right now, and you're saying, Kyle, I'm looking for that thing. I haven't found it yet. I'm looking for it. I'm searching, I'm exploring, but I haven't found it. I'm so bummed out, stressed, and I feel dismayed because I can't find it. All my friends know what they're doing. First of all, they don't. They feel the same way you do. But they tell me it's something outside themselves. So that lesson here is don't look outside yourself. I asked them, you're 20. In 20 years of your life, what have you spent the most time doing? And I'm not talking about I'm talking about real things. So, students will say playing soccer. They'll say, I love computers. I love coding. I love figuring these things out. I make little flash games on my computer using whatever. They'll say things like, I'm a bibliophile. I love reading. I read historical fictions. I get super deep into it. I read biographies, whatever. So, you have spent years of your life doing things, knowing things. You are a super geek. Like I'm a super geek and a super nerd on certain topics. And so the best lesson, and the lesson that people still are learning, is how do you really lead with your best foot forward, which is whatever you're a super nerd and a super geek on, because that's what you love, that's what you can do for hours, and it's what you're already an expert on. But then also lining it up with where's real opportunity now, where are jobs that are actually paying geographically? Is this, if I want to live in New York, does this exist in New York? Other things like that. I need to stop talking. I'm verbose. I can talk for a long time.
No, that's absolutely so true, though. I mean, our passions are what motivate us the strongest. So aligning that with a career path is only success. I love that mentality. So I guess to say next then, what would you say are like the big three, the top three things that everyone should know about when curating their e-portfolio, updating their resume, putting themselves like best foot forward? What are those big things that we should know and take away from you of how to be on top of it?
Wow, yeah, that's hard. Three things. I just spent 20 minutes talking about one thing. You want me to talk about three? I'll do my best. I think the first and foremost, it's impossible to give universally accurate and compelling advice. So any career coach, career advisor, career consultant, career specialist, hiring, whatever, if you're on LinkedIn, all these influencers on LinkedIn who are saying, I'm a career, listen to me. If any of them ever say this is the right way to do something, they're wrong, they're lying, they're manipulating. Don't listen to them. You need to listen to people who say, here's one way of doing it. I could totally be wrong. There might be a million other exceptions to it, but this is one framework, one possibility amongst 100 you should be considering. Yeah, listen to me, but go listen and ask for 20 other opinions too. So I think the key is know your audience. I think, the one thing here is your strategy, your approach, the way that you devise the way you're going to either attack an opportunity, try to pursue a job, who you're going to reach out to, how you're going to talk to them, what your resume should literally look like, what's included in it, what your LinkedIn should look like, what your e-portfolio should look like, whatever. All of that needs to be dictated by where you're trying to go. My wife is actually a career coach as well. She works at UCLA. And so, we've been working, we live in a tiny, tiny little 900,000 square foot apartment. And I hear her with her clients all the time. And I'm going to steal her language, which is the quickest way to get somewhere is to know where you're going. Think about that. The quickest way to get somewhere is to know where you're going. If you don't know where you're going, how are you going to get there quickly? You're meandering, and that's okay too. But when you're trying to target something, you need to know where you're going, and then you can start figuring out what the best path is. And what that means is, so if you're building a resume, you first of all, there is no such thing as a resume. So I have clients come in, I'm updating my resume. You don't have one resume. You need to be able to have the tools and the systems in place. So I'm talking like Google Drive, Google Docs, whatever it might be, so that you can basically, every job you apply to, you can look at that unique opportunity, read the literal words on that job posting, and get an idea of who are they hiring. Because the recruiter and the hiring manager for that job literally sat down and said, who is our ideal candidate? And they wrote it down for you to review. It's like a syllabus in a class. They gave you a class syllabus on that job posting.
Right.
So your job as an applicant is to read that, know what they're looking for, and then tailor your resume to match that. So if you have one resume that you send to 10 different places, even if they're all, let's say, electrical engineering internships, if they're 10 different companies, one's private, one's City of LA, one's yada, 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 they're going to be different jobs. If you give them one resume each, it's a little cliche, but it's basically a pickup line. You've sent out a cheesy resume pickup line, and you're just hoping it sticks. You're hoping it lands. But you maybe will get lucky and 1 out of 10 will like it. So that's a big one. Know your audience, tailor your approach to your audience.
I love that, because in Sizigi, when you create your e-portfolio, you can create specific decks actually to send out to these recruiters and say, hey, I'm interested in your job, and here's my specific reasonings, and here's my tailored, presentation, if you will, of why I want to be a part of this company. And so I think that connects really, really well to our system, like you said.
It's brilliant. You're paying attention to what the market needs, and you understand the reality of getting recruiter attention, and you understand how students can best be selling themselves. I mean, if you don't do that, if you just have a stagnant, one-size-fits-all profile, again, it's a cheesy thing, but it's a pickup line. You are gimmicky. Recruiters see right through it. It's hit or miss. You might actually be embarrassing yourself in some situations. So I think that's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, amazing. Just to stay on track with our time, I'd love to move on to our next question, which is, how has COVID or trying to get hired during a pandemic changed the job world? How is our approach going to change? What can we do to help get ourselves out there more and be more proactive about job searching in such a crazy time?
Yeah. It's changed in a lot of ways. I mean, there are companies that, had 30 people in the hiring department for campus recruitment who now have 1. And that's staggering. There are places that would be hiring and filling continually 30,000 jobs, where now those 30,000 jobs don't exist anymore. I'm thinking I'm in Southern Los Angeles, so I'm thinking of Disneyland. And Claire, when we talked, I brought that up randomly, and you're like, I used to work at Disneyland. And so
yes. I know that personally. Yeah.
And so I'm going to actually wrap this back into the last thing I was saying, which is you need to know your audience. You need to know the market. So I think there's always been a need for high school, college, young, seasoned, everybody, anyone who's a job seeker. There's always been a need for you to keep your ear to the ground and stay plugged in and stay aware of what's happening. But that impetus, the need for that has only grown more. So you need to be spending your time getting the relevant, up-to-date, accurate as of today information if you want to know what you're doing, if you want to know the challenges you're trying to overcome, the strategies that are going to work. So I'm going to give a quick anecdote and keep me on track, Claire. I'm sorry.
I will. I got you.
So my sister works as a volunteer for Make-A-Wish in Chicago. She was won, I believe, 3 years in a row, maybe 2 years in a row, but I believe it's 3 years in a row. She's won Wishmaker of the Year in Chicago, which is a huge region, a huge accomplishment for her. If you've heard things like the kid in Chicago who dressed up as a superhero and rode in a helicopter, that was her. She planned those wishes. But part of her job is she will use Twitter. She will go on Twitter and she will tweet Tom's, I'm working with Make-A-Wish. Are you my kid? He said his favorite apparel is Tom's shoes. She said that her favorite apparel is Crocs, whatever it is. Can you donate something to us? And so the same way Twitter removes that barrier between us and real people, she can tweet Robert Downey Jr. Hey, RDJ, do you want to do something for this kid? He says he wants to meet you. In the same way Twitter removes that barrier between us and celebrity, and right away that person sees that, they retweet you, they message you back, you just got to talk to them. LinkedIn does that same thing for professionals and for recruiters. So I think, with the world of COVID, the smartest thing that students or job seekers of any age, any experience level can be doing is spending their time in LinkedIn, because that's where recruiters spend their time. That's where recruiters are going to be doing job announcements. Hey, looking for an active position. My friend at this company is hiring. Do you want to, if you're interested, that's where they spend their time. That's literally the number one place that recruiters spend their time. And you have direct access to them. In 5 minutes, you can jump on LinkedIn. You don't even need to worry about your portfolio, your profile to begin with. You can just have an account, go on it, type in Tesla, go to Tesla's company page. On the left, it'll say people, click people. Then you get a search bar. You can type in, if you want to be a partnership working in partnership. You can type in the word partnerships. It will then show you the 800 people in Tesla. You can narrow it down to LA, the 50 people that work in partnerships in Los Angeles at Tesla, and you can follow all of them in 2 seconds. Wow. So that then is your LinkedIn newsfeed is saturated and inundated with only the people that you follow. Mm-hmm. So just like, Claire, you and I wake up and we probably grab our phone, and I go to Reddit. I go to Reddit and I go to LinkedIn. When I was younger, I'd go to Instagram, but I realized I was wasting my time on Instagram. So what I did intentionally is I made LinkedIn scratch that same itch that Instagram used to itch or scratch for me. Yeah. So my LinkedIn feed is literally the same type of dopamine hit that we get when we use something like Instagram or TikTok or whatever it might be. So, but with LinkedIn, you still get that. Ooh, I'm clued in. These are people I'm interacting with. I have friends here. I'm learning things. Yeah. I'm following lifestyle brands I like. But you like the comment, and that recruiter sees your face and your name. You comment on that comment or that post from them, and they see your thoughts. You can now message them, hey, over a week, if you interacted with someone a couple times, you can now message them, hey, whatever your name is, really good conversation we had last week. Thank you for that post. By the way, I just applied to your internship. I applied because I have 2 past experiences in automotive, AI, and I'm really interested in working at Tesla. I'm a huge sustainability nerd. Let me know if you want to talk. Like that behavior right there is easy. It's comfortable. You get used to it. It's uncomfortable the first time, but it's really easy and it's okay. And recruiters actively say they like it. It's not bugging them. That shows that you're paying attention. It shows you're engaged. So, this world of COVID is you just got to spend your time, be where your audience is. Mm-hmm. And we all need to relax. We all need to de-stress, but do it strategically. Get rid of something that's wasting your time. If Instagram is just wasting your time, get rid of it. And then make something that's more effective, that's something that still meets that same need, but actually helps you. Mm-hmm. Train that tool. Like LinkedIn, if it's boring, it's not because it's boring, it's because you've made it boring. You can make it really interesting.
I love that you, when we were talking yesterday, you mentioned you have a picture of your dog on your LinkedIn. And you have it pinned. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I think one of the key things on LinkedIn is to be engaging. So, LinkedIn is not a passive tool. It was a passive tool 10 years ago. You put in your resume, you hope a recruiter reaches out to you. That doesn't work. It's literally almost for no one. So LinkedIn is an engaged, active tool. Like I said, what was the first stuff I said? Find people, follow people, like their posts, comment on their posts. But the other thing you can be doing is LinkedIn recently, I think it was right before COVID, but I feel like this year has been like a black hole. I don't actually know. I have no idea of time or space anymore. So it was recent. In the last 12 months, LinkedIn unveiled a new feature, which is you can pin posts, feature things that you've done on LinkedIn, which is awesome. So for me, you can have as many as you want, I think, and then it just goes into like a horizontal swiper. So the 3 are the ones that sit on your page, but you can have 6, 7 if people want to scroll through. But so for me, my first one I posted was one that was like a very engaging conversation. It got a couple hundred likes. It got over 100 comments on it, which with LinkedIn, that's basically the Instagram equivalent of thousands.
Yes.
And so that's first because it's showing my thoughts, it's showing my approach, it's showing my strategy, and it's showing that I'm able to get my content gets people engaged. So that's helping my brand. Yeah. The next one is literally a picture of my dog smiling in a garden. It's a beautiful picture using iPhones like portrait mode, so it looks really nice.
I love portrait mode.
My dog is super cute. And so the reason I did that is, my personal brand is aligned with who I am at work. So who I am outside of work is almost identical with who I am at work. Because it's really important for me to not feel like I have to waste energy putting on masks, playing a game, code switching just so people like me, all these other things. And so that we can unpack that. There's a lot of privilege and white privilege and other things that I just said. It's a privileged position to be able to not play games and to code switch. I'm aware of that. And like I said, we can definitely unpack that. That could be a whole other hour-long podcast.
Of course.
But what I'm saying here is you can be fun on LinkedIn. You can be interesting on LinkedIn. You can be yourself on LinkedIn. I'm a gamer. So, where I'm going to be in 5-10 years in my career is probably working in people operations in a large gaming company. And so, literally 2 days ago, I saw on Reddit, someone said, someone made a post about Among Us. It's a very popular game right now. It's a very fun game. But it's amazing. It's fun. It's interactive. It's about community. It's about problem solving cooperatively. And they made a post that said, with COVID, it was my birthday and I wasn't able to see anybody. At 11:58 p.m., somebody said, "Hey, join our Among Us lobby." I joined, and at 12, everybody switched their characters to wearing birthday hats. And then they on Discord, like a talking service for video games, everyone on Discord saying happy birthday to me. And I took a quick screenshot, went on the LinkedIn, posted it, and said, "This is why I'm proud to be a gamer." Mm-hmm. And that's probably the number one post I've had in the last 12 months that's had the most engagement at this point in time. So,
and on LinkedIn, no one would think to post that, and yet it was so impactful for your feed.
Yeah,
that's amazing. So speaking a little bit about LinkedIn, and you gave me some amazing advice yesterday when we talked about where we could put our e-portfolio links, because on Sizigi, it's completely free to make an e-portfolio. It's the resume of the future. Everything is digital. Even like being at the office is digital now. So could you talk about where you think would be the best places to put our links for our e-portfolios?
Yeah, there's a couple that come to mind immediately. And I'll even take a quick step back and just say, I think something like the solution Sizigi is offering is brilliant. People need something that's more compelling. That's why I'm posting pictures. That's why the most successful people on, I'm going back to LinkedIn, but the most successful people on LinkedIn are posting videos of themselves talking rather than just text-based coaching. It's here's a 2-second video of me giving quick advice on whatever it might be, because that's engaging and we want to see it. It's human, it's living, it's interesting, it's engaging. Mm-hmm. So something like Sigigi's portfolios is brilliant, and it's going to be helpful and effective. So, there's a couple ways. I think one is in connection requests. So if you send a connection request, again, with my process a minute ago that I mentioned of if you apply to a job, reach out to a recruiter. "Hi, recruiter, I just submitted my application for this internship or this role. I applied because of something I bring that I know you want." You have to get their attention. Mm-hmm. And then you can just say, if you want to take a look at my work, here's my portfolio, post the link right to that. If what you gave them, that little bit of, "Hi, I applied because I'm a current MBA student and I have 3 years of working in sustainability consulting. I'm really interested in this role. If you want to see some of my past work, take a look at this e-portfolio." Mm-hmm. If they liked you at all, they're probably going to click that link really quickly. And then you just turned 2 seconds of attention into 20 minutes of attention, into them going to their applicant tracking system because they know your name. You said, "I already applied," maybe even in parentheses, gave them your tracking, your applicant number. They find you, and now you get a phone screen. I've literally had clients reach out to a recruiter in the morning at a 9 a.m. coaching appointment with me. Mm-hmm. And then they will email me at 2 p.m. and say, "Kyle, oh my God, that's that person that we messaged. They called me at noon and they said, I saw your message. Can we talk?" And it was a phone interview. It was their first round phone screen.
Wow.
And I think that's one great place for it.
Great. Amazing.
I got a couple more if we have time.
Yeah. Let's do one more.
Yeah. So the last other one I would say is we'll do 2 in 1. And I'll be 20 seconds, maybe less. So the other 2 key places on LinkedIn are your header and then your summary section in your portfolio and your profile on LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. So I think you can, if it's a small link, if you do a vanity link somehow, you can put that link in your header. So you can have something like my header says, "I do L&D, learning and development for 10,000 users. I'm a gamer. I'm a comedian who kept his day job because I sucked at being a comedian." So, you want an interesting, I'm giving scope, I'm giving depth, but I'm being human, I'm being funny. But you can also put the link right there. If it doesn't fit there, or if it doesn't look right, or you don't like it, I think the other place is definitely put it in your summary section on your profile as well.
Yeah, perfect. I think that is going to be so effective, and I'm so excited to hopefully have more people doing that. I know I definitely want to brush up my Sizigi account already and use your tips to make it even shine more. We do have a couple questions here, I think. Mm-hmm. So let's hold up this one. So Abby would like to ask, "Hi, Kyle, how do you remain motivated after long periods of time?"
I don't. I don't think anyone does. And I think in my years and years and years and years and thousands of people I've worked with, I think it's really toxic and it's really dangerous when we see career coaches out there saying you can love your job. If you find a job you love, I think that's a dangerous thing to put out there. And it sets up a false idol that people end up pursuing and thinking. And then when they don't feel that way, they think there's something wrong with that. Mm-hmm. And especially in the world of COVID, where we are all stressed, we are all burdened. Our routines are hugely disrupted. We've chosen, for me, I've chosen my career. I've chosen the fact that I work at a beautiful university. I've chosen where I live so my commute makes sense. I've chosen the podcasts and the radios I listen to on my way. all of that's ruined. All of that's been gone for 6 months. And so I think, I'm going to answer your question more bluntly here in a second too, Abby. But the first thing is give yourself some slack and like be okay with not being okay. It's normal. Mm-hmm. Everybody's hurting right now. Now, more explicitly, how do I stay motivated after a long period of time? I think what I was saying earlier about aligning what you actually love, what you're geeky about, with what you do, it is good. So, I'm not going to sit here and say, if you like what you do, it's never going to work. It's still work. There's going to be days that absolutely freaking suck. There's going to be days that you have to work from 8 a.m. to midnight. There's going to be days where you got to wake up at 4 a.m. to get that thing done. It's going to happen. And I think it's a combination of do something you enjoy, because all of us have stuff that we know we should be going to bed. We know we got to wake up tomorrow early, but we're doing something and it's now 2 a.m. and we just did 4 hours of binging that TV show, of writing that book, of reading that book, of playing that video game. So we have things we can do that are energizing and re-energizing for hours and hours and hours. Mm-hmm. And if you try to get some of that stuff into what you're doing, either professionally in your academic studies, the major that you're choosing, the internship that you're at, the job that you're at, you're going to be more successful. But it's a combination of setting yourself up for success in that way. And then it's also just discipline. It really is. You need to know it's going to freaking suck sometimes. And you have to have coping mechanisms and behaviors in place to be able to just say, nope, today sucks, but I got to get done.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. Are there any other questions that anyone would like to ask Kyle? We still have just a couple minutes left, but we'll just leave some space here if anyone wants to ask him some questions. In the meantime, while we wait for some questions, maybe Kyle, do you want to just add any last little tidbits of advice you might have?
Yeah. I think a lot of this, I'm a really strong believer in self-authorship. And what I mean by that is most of us, and I'm aware of places where this is an exception to the rule. Again, I want to be very careful around ideas of normalizing or normativity around privilege, around access, around accessibility, and other things like that too. But most of us have the agency to be in charge of ourselves. Most of us have the agency to be choosing things. And I think it's a really dangerous myth where we try to put that agency, that autonomy, that impetus, that responsibility outside ourselves and go, if I could just find that thing, if I could just tap into this external resource of energy or willpower or drive, I think it's really dangerous to put that outside ourselves, because then it gives you an excuse for why you're not doing it yourself right now. And I want to be careful. I'm a person who struggles with mental health issues. I'm happy and willing to admit that. There are times where my depression and its clinical depression leaves me in bed. There are times where I cannot get up. There are times where I need a week off. There are times where I know what I should be doing and I just can't. And so I'm not saying never give yourself an excuse. I'm not saying you have no excuse to not be able to be perfect all the time. Hell no, that's not what I'm saying. Yeah. But I'm saying that if you make success always just over that hill, if you make discipline always just through that thicket, if you make wholeness and wellness something that's always just 1 mile away from you, you're never going to get it. And so it has to be conscious decisions in the moment that build on each other, that build routine, that even when you don't want to, you do it, but again, doing it graciously as well. So I think, in the world of career, what this means is be intentional, be picky, hold yourself highly, know what you want. If you love gaming and you have people telling you that that's stupid, screw them, do it anyway. If you love whatever and you have people telling you can't make money, then screw them. Yes, you can. You just got to find the right place. And so, the key here is be curious, be insatiable, love the stuff you love and do it unapologetically, almost no matter what it is, not if it's illegal, not if it's illegal, if it's harming yourself or others. But if there's things that you love, don't be ashamed of those things, especially with the world of Reddit and the world of Instagram and the world of Pinterest board. There are literally hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people who love the same stuff you love. You can find your community. So do not be apologetic about the things that you like and that you love. Lean into those things, because the only way you're ever going to get hired for an opportunity is if when you come into an interview, if the people that you're talking to feel like you love what they love. If they're a company that is about active sportswear and you don't really care about active sportswear, you just got that interview because somebody recommended you higher up, and they're like, wait, this person doesn't care about active sportswear, you are not getting that job. So put yourself into rooms that you really, really want to be in.
Yeah, we have a question actually. How do you hone your public speaking skills? You are a great public speaker, so
practice. Yeah, practice. It's a couple different things. Speaking about being unashamed, I was a little ham as a kid. What I mean by that is a ham is I loved attention. I loved attention. I'm the youngest of 5. My 4 older siblings were all adopted with various different physical and mental special needs. So to be frank, I didn't get a lot of attention as a kid. My job, my role in my family was be quiet, go to your room, don't cause problems. And that's harsh. So, Dad, if you're watching this, I love you, and you know that. And there's a lot of good things too. But the reality was, it really was. There were bigger, really severe issues happening in my family around health, around relationships. And so it was my job to be self-sufficient because I was okay, largely speaking. So all that to say, public speaking, I liked attention, but I felt bad about liking attention. I was frequently told, Kyle, you're acting up. Kyle, you're being a ham. Kyle, you're being attention seeking. Shut up. Not told shut up, but basically told shut up. And so, from the time I was 5 till 18, I suppressed that part of myself. I really kind of collapsed into myself. But then I was in my undergrad, as I mentioned earlier, I was an organizational communication student. So I was in comm studies, and I was in a public speaking class with Amy Jung. So Amy, if you're watching this, you were a big deal. You made a big impact in my life. Thank you. I'll probably have to tell you that specifically because I don't think I've ever told you that. But Amy Jung, you made a big impact. That you made me do a public speaking. And my first time public speaking, I sucked at it in this class. I was nervous. I was awkward. I didn't know the standard. And she was basically like, Kyle, you got some raw talent in there, but you did a really bad job. You're getting a C for that speech. Here are the things you need to do better. Mm-hmm. Now watch. Everybody, I see a pattern. Most of you are doing this. Let me give you an example of what this should look like. And then she did it. And I was like, oh, I could do that. And so, how I honed my public speaking skills is I listened to a lot of public speakers and I figured out what I like. I'm going to be real. I feel like you could probably feel I'm pretty friendly. I'm pretty open. But I'm also really freaking picky. And I'm also really freaking critical. And I have really high standards. I'm gracious. But I hold myself and others to really high standards, especially if you're someone in my life. I hold you to high standards because I have value just like you have value. And so I paid attention to public speakers and I thought, out of all these different ways, which are the ones that I actually resonate with? Which were the ones that I didn't think were gimmicky, were cheesy, were stupid, were tacky, were trying to pull my leg, felt manipulative? Which were the ones that I actually thought, wow, that was effective? Mm-hmm. And then I paid attention to what they did and I learned from it and I practice it. And again, I've been doing this for 10 years. I will do 100 public live workshops a year, 100. Wow. Where I will have an audience of 30 students and it's a workshop where I'm doing public speaking, but I'm also teaching. I'm getting them to break into small groups. I'm pushing them. I'm challenging them. So it's practice. If we flash back to or rewound to 2012, my first public speaking workshop was probably horrible compared to what it is now. So it takes time and practice. Don't look at someone like me who does this for a living and go, I could never do that. This guy is so much better than me. I'm intimidated. It took me years to get to what I can do. And I still have growth. I still have places I can get better and lots of places. So find people you respect and you look up to and that you value the way that they're doing it. If you are looking at being a public speaker, find public speakers that you are really impacted by and study their craft and then practice that.
Amazing. You are amazing. Ooh, there we go. Thank you so much, Kyle, for coming and speaking with us today. I know I always learn so much from you, and I'm sure our audience did too. Everyone, make sure you go connect with Kyle. He's phenomenal. And just thank you so much for coming to meet with me today.
Yeah, and Claire, if I can, I'm going to hopefully not embarrass you, but 2 things I want to say about you, Claire. I've literally done 600 public speaking, sometimes with as many as 1,300 people, sometimes with as few as 5. And there's been one time where someone came up to me after doing a workshop or a presentation, and someone came up to me and said, Kyle, wow, here's something you said during your workshop that really resonated with me. Can I help you with this? And that was Claire. So again, I've been doing this for 10 years, and I'm so used to people coming up and saying, Kyle, thank you. I need more from you. What advice? Can you help me with this? I need more, give me more. I need more of you. And Claire was literally the only person in my entire experience doing this who came up and said, Claire, or Kyle, you mentioned this thing that you love. My father works in this industry. He might be a person that's a good contact for you. Would you like me to introduce them to you? Mm-hmm. And it blew me away. And so, Claire, that speaks testaments to the type of person you are. And I think it also is a lesson that everybody in this room can learn. If you learn anything today, don't learn from me, learn from Claire. The way to be successful in this world of career and networking is such a weird, it's a 4-letter word. The way to be successful is to put other people first and to help other people first. So if you approach it by saying, hey, person, how can I help you? I paid attention to you. I listened to you. I'm not just coming and saying, hey, if you ever need help, here it is. I'm actually offering help that is tailored and informed. That will move mountains. The reason I am here today is because Claire made a huge impact on me. Huge impact. I know who Claire is after working with 30,000 people. And I know who Claire is, even though we've only talked together once for 3 minutes, 3 or 2 years ago or whatever it was. Yeah. And then the second thing you did, Claire, is, you reached out to me and you said, Kyle, I'm putting together this thing. And the reason I'm asking you is because, when I learned from you, Kyle, and when I want to have our audience at Sizigi learn, the first person that came to mind was you, Kyle. Like, that's so flattering. And that means so much, and it's so kind. So learn from Claire, prop other people up, encourage other people, amplify other voices, be first about helping others, and people are going to want to reciprocate and help you too.
You're so generous. Thank you so much. That really makes me smile. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for watching. And have a great rest of your day, Kyle.